I'm on remote at the Smith's Marketplace in West Jordan, and also I'm excited about being on remote. I'm a man of the people, and most of the time, James, who is technically the big boss at ESPN 700, James is like, no, you stay in your dungeon. You stay here in the studios. I don't want you out there meeting and greeting. I don't want you out there giving away Smith's gift cards, which are our favorite sales guy, Kurt, just dropped a grip of these things. So come in, say hello. I've got hospitality tent passes, tailgate passes. I've got free sodas, courtesy of our guy Bruce from Smith's. I've got some Utah gear to give away, and I have $10 Smith's gift cards. You're going to have to earn them. I'll just be honest with you. I'm going to make you earn them a little bit. You're probably going to have to do, I don't know, some push-ups, or if you're not really in the push-up mood, I'll make you answer some kind of Utah trivia question, something like that. But we're going to have a little bit of fun on a Friday as we send you into a huge, huge weekend in college football. A huge weekend in sports in general, but man, it is a big one for the Utes for obvious reasons. It is a huge one for BYU football for obvious reasons. And the playoff picture is really taking shape around the country. We're marching closer to the early signing period opening for high school recruits. The transfer window opens in less than 2 weeks as well. So right now, if you're a college football coach, this is the probably best and worst time of year for you, depending on how your season is going, depending on how you're feeling about the momentum of your program or the security of your job. There's been some big-time announcements in recruitment in these last couple of days. We just talked about Juju Lewis committing to Colorado after the USC flip. Now Michigan gets good news about the number one recruit in the country, also a quarterback, flipping his commitment from LSU and going to Michigan. And by the way, if you're like a 16, 17, 18-year-old, you're a rising underclassman in high school, and you're looking at what it means if you are one of the top recruits, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, we're talking about financial security for your future forever. You could attain that in high school now. Isn't that a wild thing to think about? I mean, like if you were Justin Bieber, that was a reality for you. Even athletes had to wait until they were in their 20s at least before you could secure generational wealth for yourself. And now these high school recruits are signing NIL deals. Just the reported numbers are reaching 8-figure deals for 17 and 18-year-old kids. Wow. That's where we're at.
Completely normal, OC.
I mean, James, I know that was how your high school experience went.
Yes.
That when you were 17 years old, people were knocking down your door trying to offer you $10.5 million deals.
They're like,
$12 million deals.
We need someone.
Tennessee quarterback got.
We need someone to give us obscure movie quotes 24/7. So, how many million do you want?
Doesn't it stink that like we only have decided that there's a very specific set of skills that we actually value, put this kind of monetary value on, and it happens to be athletic skill or musical skill. I don't think there's anything else that really does that for you. Maybe now technological coding genius is something that could give you a little bit of that kind of love and that kind of financial security in your future, but I don't know what else would potentially do it. So good for these kids, man. That's not even where I wanted to start the show today, but that's one of those things that comes across your desk, and you absolutely cannot ignore Bryce Underwood flipping his commitment from LSU to Michigan and reportedly doing so to the tune of $10.5 million. A lot of that allegedly coming from the Barstool account. I don't know if that's
really
been verified or vetted yet. But look, the founder of Barstool is a proud Michigan man, a controversial personality, but somebody who has not been shy about throwing his money around for what he deems to be good causes. Not everyone deems his causes to be good causes, but Dave Portnoy and company they're completely unabashed about saying, you know what I want to do? I want to keep a local business alive during COVID, and I'm going to throw a couple $100,000 their way, and I'm going to decide that this is an important cause, and I'm going to throw a couple $100,000 that way. I'm going to support this veterans cause, maybe not the one that you like, but here we are with allegedly a bunch of this money coming from Barstool to Michigan to give them another shot at a national championship. And it's interesting because they just got one pretty recently. This is not even a desperation move by like a fan base that is long suffering. It would make more sense if you had, a Ryan Smith type figure who's like, man, it's been 40 years since BYU was in the national championship conversation. I need to see this again. It makes sense what Phil Knight is doing at Oregon now that it's legal. He is saying, I want to see Oregon win a national championship before I die, and I will open up my checkbook to that effort. And he has. The Michigan fan base got a little bit used to the success maybe and was just like, well, Harbaugh's gone, but we can still get the great players here. Wow, just a fascinating deal happening in college football right now.
And the direct quote from Brian Kelly was, "Why you leaving, Bryce?" Right?
I see what you did there. Oh, Brian Kelly. I try not to make too much fun of him because I guarantee this would be me if I was a head coach. I'm not proud of the fact that sometimes you have like a bit of a chameleon personality. It's a better trait if you're the same person all the time, no matter who you are around. But some of us do fall victim to the trap of like, you want to kind of meet people where they are. So I can see, I guess, why he does that a little bit. But the affecting a fake accent, I mean, Madonna has done it. Brian Kelly has done it. I don't know how many other people have done it. There's actually a fighter in the UFC. This is a deep cut, James.
Yeah, I'm ready for it.
There's a female fighter, a young fighter, who's like one of the best in the world. She's top 10 in her weight class. Her name is Mackenzie Dern. She's widely regarded as one of the most prolific grapplers, jiu-jitsu specialists in all of mixed martial arts, especially on the women's side of things. And she was born and raised in the United States, like in San Diego or something. I think her dad is Brazilian and her ex-husband also Brazilian. So she spent a lot of time around the Brazilian community, which of course is also kind of part of things if you're a jiu-jitsu specialist. But you can watch, you can go on YouTube and you can find videos of her when she was in her teens competing in these jiu-jitsu tournaments, speaking like a kid from wherever, California, would speak. And then in her 20s, starting to develop a Brazilian, a Portuguese accent.
Wow.
And then it got kind of worse and peaked to where you can literally find her doing interviews where she says, how do you say in English, or what's the word in
my
English?
goodness.
It's what are you talking about? That English is your first language.
And she did not well, obviously that's ridiculous. That part.
Brian
but she
Kelly,
didn't move to Brazil or anything in the meantime.
Even if you did move to Brazil, if you're
not necessarily going to make that your primary accent.
I mean,
that doesn't just happen.
James, you lived in Hungary for 2 years, right?
Yeah, right.
Did you forget how to speak English?
I did not.
Okay.
How do you say?
Anyway, so Brian Kelly loses a big-time recruit to the Fighting Michigan Wolverines, and it took $10 million. I was driving down here to Smith's. We're at the Smith's Marketplace in West Jordan, 90th South. We're in the southeast doors, the southeast corner of the shop. We've got free sodas to give away. We've got tailgate passes, hospitality tent passes, and Smith's gift cards to give away. I was driving in and I was listening. Dan Patrick was interviewing Brady Quinn. You can listen to Dan Patrick, pardon me, from 7 to 11 right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. And, Dan asked the question that is kind of the low-hanging fruit, but it is. He said, are these flips happening? Are these recruitment decisions happening just because of the money? And Brady Quinn laughed about it, and he's obviously part of the Big Noon coverage and is very deeply intertwined with college football at this moment in his life and was, of course, a great college football player himself, and he laughed about it, and he said, well, yeah, it basically comes down to the money. And then he laughed again and said something to the effect of, well, it always was that way, but now it's legal and now it's above board. And he was a big-time quarterback recruit, so I think, saying the quiet part even quieter, Brady Quinn went to Notre Dame probably because Notre Dame had the most attractive package for him. And that was, something that –
the biggest bag, right?
James, were you listening to Dan Patrick this morning?
I was.
They were doing it again. They were
did
having
it
the
again.
bag conversation again.
The Serbian-sized bag.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. Anyway.
And by the way, you had mentioned, hey, can we call it a sack of tricks instead, or a sack? I don't think that would have went well with the Serbian size comment that they made on the show today.
That's absolutely perfect. The Serbian sack of tricks. Absolutely. That fits.
Okay.
All right. I
Fair
want to
enough.
focus in, while we have a little bit of time, I want to focus in on Utah football and a special weekend coming up. Bill Riley is going to join us in just a few minutes. Voice of the Utes will be our first guest on the show today. Scott Mitchell, Tony Jones, Lee Sterling, all joining us on the show as well. 1 o'clock hour is open, and we're actually going to play. We've decided that we're going to make sure that we do our best here on ESPN 700 to pay tribute to the entire senior class that is being honored tomorrow. And the entire senior class also includes a ceremony where Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe will be honored. And, they are every single game at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and that has become one of the cool new traditions in all of college football, I think. Between the third and fourth quarter, the lights go down, everyone gets their phones out, and we have that moment of joy and jubilation and loudness. And I think it's really great. It gives me the chills every single time I've been present for it. And I know that a lot of visiting broadcasters that we've talked to on the air and elsewhere have said it kind of has the same effect on them, of visiting fans get involved, visiting teams get involved. And it's one of the better things about college sports that when you strip away the rivalry and the trash talk and all this stuff, and you realize how large the community is and how something like the tragedies Utah football experienced while this senior class was really like in the throes of their recruitment or in the throes of their careers at the University of Utah. It's one of those bonds that goes back and holds you together forever. So Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe are going to be honored, and we are going to play a Ty Jordan interview at 1 o'clock today. So mark that down, put that alarm in your phones, whatever, but we're going to play sound of Ty Jordan in a conversation he had with Bill Riley on the Coach's Show after a breakout game. And, Junior Tafuna said something after practice, and I'm sure you saw, I retweeted it at Real OC Sports. I'm sure most of you saw the video by now. In the post-practice media availability, he was asked about, the absence of his teammates and friends, and he got pretty emotional. And understandably so. He got teary-eyed and talked about how grateful he is that he gets to still be here. And he said something that really kind of cut to the core. He said something to the effect of, once we're gone, no one's going to remember them. No one's going to know who they are. And I'm thankful to report I think he's wrong about that. I think that the 22 forever and the legacy of Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe is going to be remembered for a very, very long time at the University of Utah. The number is retired for a reason. I think that Kyle Whittingham and the rest of that staff and the rest of that football community are going to make sure that we don't forget about Ty and Aaron. And I know that the fan base is going to do their best to make sure nobody forgets about Ty and Aaron. But that was something that seeing, Junior Tafuna, who's a universally beloved captain on this team and a great player, and someone who's an important kind of pillar of what Utah football is and has been over some successful years, and then these two most recent not so great years. Hearing him kind of put in perspective something that is much bigger than just wins and losses in football, and I think it cut to the center of me, James, because if I have a phobia or a fear that makes no sense and is irrational and probably only matters to me. If you ask me what my number one fear in life is, and everyone I guess has one, I think being forgotten is the thing that I find to be most terrifying. And when people pass tragically or when people pass young, their family remembers them and their loved ones remember them, and that's a heck of a thing. That's an important thing. And in this case, I think Ty and Aaron are going to be remembered long after even their teammates are finished talking about him. And I think that's a special thing. So I want Ty's voice to be heard again on these airwaves, and so we're going to play that sound for you. And that was a suggestion from James that I thought was really, really fitting as we head into a weekend. I don't want it to be a somber show by any means, but when I saw what Junior Tafuna was asked about and his response to it, and then James came up with this idea, I thought it was the right thing to do on a Friday before senior day where Ty and Aaron would have been walking as seniors with this class. So great idea by you, James, and something that I'm excited about doing. And we're going to do that again in the 1 o'clock hour. At the top of our 1 o'clock hour, we will play a Ty Jordan interview after a breakout performance against Oregon State.
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, it was my idea to play that coach's show interview, but it was after I watched the video that you retweeted, and then you had mentioned, yeah, let's do some, or you had said let's play some highlights after I mentioned this interview. But anyway, I watched that video and I went and I was like, you know what, I think we have a coach's show interview saved, and I think it's probably the final interview he gave. It certainly on our station. It's possible he could have given an interview somewhere else after this, but I fairly certain it's the final interview that he gave of his life, of his playing career, certainly. And so I would say a bit of you inspired me when I saw that you retweeted that, but then and then for you to say let's play some of his best highlights throughout the show too. I just think it's a fitting time. It's the end of the week. It's certainly not something. Don't know if we'd want to get this this emotional on a Wednesday, for example, but end of the week before a senior night matchup that they would have walked at. And I know that the team, I had heard that the team was honoring them with their families will be in attendance and accept those honors on their behalf. I thought it was the right time to do this. And also, I mean, it makes you wonder, OC, watching Junior get emotional in that video. It makes you wonder, those that knew Ty, those on the team that knew him, that are still playing, if not only the motivation of, hey, let's play spoiler against Iowa State and let's win for our seniors, I wonder if this would be enough of extra motivation to get an even more inspiring performance than they may have had if not for the program saying, you know what, this would have been Ty and Aaron's senior year. We're going to honor them as if they'd be walking today. I wonder if we're not going to get a little bit extra from the team tomorrow because of that extra, emotional motivation.
Well, you hope so, and even if you don't, it doesn't mean anything about whether or not they.
Certainly not.
They really, like, we know that these guys have tried to honor Ty and Aaron, through the course of their remaining years at the University of Utah, and we know that the football community and the fan base and the coaching staff and everyone will continue to do that even after this year, and they'll have a place in Utah football lore at the very least forever. But when you have an opportunity to hear the words of someone who's passed, that's a good thing, and I hope we can bring a little smile to people's faces remembering what Ty Jordan was as a player, as a person, etc. And I got thinking about it again because of Junior Tafuna's emotion and his response and his candor after practice. I've said this, I think, when on my Pac-12 show I said this. I know we haven't spent a lot of time on it on the ESPN 700, but I was on a team my junior year of high school where we lost a teammate in an accident. It was a hunting situation. And he was a young member of the team. There were a lot of similarities to this whole Ty Jordan situation. He was a freshman player who was way better than he had any business being. His name is Aaron Perry, and he would have been, he's born in like 1985, so he'd be 39 years old today, but he never made it past high school. He never made it past his freshman year of high school, and he was a great player on our team, and he was a great person uh, on the field, off the field, everywhere. And he was a young kid, like it's funny because when you're that age, you think of yourself kind of as an adult, and we thought of him kind of as an adult, but he was like 15 years old, and he was already playing varsity football, and he was already lettering on a varsity team that had high hopes for, at least a deep playoff run, and he was a contributor. And it's interesting the way that, Aaron's legacy has kind of carried on, and we're 24 years and a month removed from his passing, I think, and his family is, still in the thoughts of like our teammates, and his number, he wore number 24, looks different to all of us that were on that team. 24 has a different significance to all of us that were on that team than it does to like James Peterson, or it does to, the guys who were playing for Brighton High School those years, the guys who were at Alta High School those years, the guys who were already in college football. And the same way that the number 22 is going to mean something to the Utah football community for a long time, Aaron Perry's number 24 has meant something to all of us. Even if it's just like when you see it, it just kind of like stirs a little bit of a memory or something. And there were a lot of commonalities in that situation, and that's one of those deals where like I'm proud of the way that the University of Utah handled it. I'm proud of the way that they're still handling it, and I think that that number, for whatever reason, that's the thing that sticks out to me so much, is that number becomes a symbol of that person, and we're lucky to have that in sports when it's a sports figure who passes, and we can say that's their number, and that number then reminds us, because when you're just talking about people in everyday life who I don't know are going about their business, and it's a car accident or it's an illness or it's a whatever, they might not have something. The people who remember them might not have something quite as common or quite as easy to recognize as a jersey number. And we have that with Ty and with Aaron. And I think that's cool. So I don't know why I felt like I needed to say that, but it just reminded me that the 22 with the Utah football and the 24 with a very specific window of old Jordan High School people. And I'm sure that there's other teams and other players and other, Oregon recently had tight end pass away, and there's a bunch of teams all over the country that have dealt with the same kind of things. So anyway, we're going to play the Ty Jordan sound for you coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. And we're going to talk a lot today on the show about the way that this Utah team matches up with Iowa State football, and the way that we think BYU football matches up with an Arizona State team that is suddenly like 3 years ahead of schedule in a rebuild, without the same kind of resources and without the same kind of hype that Colorado has and is utilizing. There's way more commonalities between what Arizona State is doing and what Colorado has done than there are differences. But the most glaring one is that you can obviously look to Colorado. You can obviously look to Coach Prime and the charisma there and the celebrity there and the money that has come into that program through NIL opportunities. And then you look at what's going on with Arizona State, and Kenny Dillingham is this 35-year-old guy who was born and raised in the Valley, and it's his hometown team, and he's been coaching since he was 17. He did a great interview, by the way, with Josh Pate. If you're not already a big follower of Josh Pate, he's one of the best voices and minds in all of college football. And he did a sit-down on the field with Kenny Dillingham and kind of talked about the way these things have gone and the way these things are going. But Arizona State is just one of the great stories and surprises in all of college football, that if they win against BYU and if they win against Arizona to finish out the season, suddenly is one of these teams that, while the storyline is going to be overshadowed because of what's happening elsewhere, deserves a lot of attention and deserves, and maybe makes you feel a little bit better as a Utah fan, because you're like, well, geez, we played them pretty tough, and they ended up being a conference championship contender way, way ahead of schedule. If you go back to Big 12 Media Days, James, Arizona State was picked to finish dead last in the conference. Everyone acknowledged that this was a rebuild that was going to take time and going to take effort and going to take money that it didn't seem like Arizona State had coming in. Well, guess what? Once again, we were wrong. So all of that on the show today. We'll take a quick one here and get ready to talk to Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes. We're at Smith's Marketplace in West Jordan, 90th South, Redwood Road, southeast corner of the store, the southeast entrance of the store. We got free sodas to give away. We got Utes gear. We've got hospitality tent passes. We have tailgate passes. And we have Smith's gift cards. Come in, say hello to us. And I don't know, you might have to do a song or a dance or a jig or a push-up to get these gift cards, but we'll get you hooked up, and we'll have a little bit of fun. Opening segment of the Sean O'Connell Show is brought to you, as always, by Alvi Armani. If the hair is thinning, if you're not feeling comfortable, call alviarmani.com. No, don't call alviarmani.com. Call Alvi Armani or go to alviarmani.com and tell them that OC sent you. They will hook you up, get that hairline back where it needs to be, restore that bald spot. The technology is there. You don't have to just suffer through hair loss issues anymore. Getting going on a Friday. Bill Riley's going to join us next. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, the Utah ESPN Radio Network.
Ty Jordan stays in the ball game here for Utah, standing next to Jake Bentley. Jordan having another good day, averaging over 7 yards a carry. Bentley under center. He's going to change the play at the line of scrimmage. Jake turns, gives Jordan left side. 15, 10, on his feet, 5, end zone, touchdown! Untouched for the last 10 yards, into the end zone, 18-yard gallop for Ty Jordan, and a great answer by the Utah offense.
Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show. That highlight sound courtesy of the Utah Sports Radio Network. And, of course, my next guest, the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, on the call there. That game was from 2020. We're going to be playing some Ty Jordan highlights for you as Utah will be honoring Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe as seniors, part of tomorrow's senior night. Families are supposed to be in attendance. I believe they will be in attendance to help honor both of those players. Bill Riley joins us now on the Sean O'Connell Show. Bill, how are you?
I'm good, Sean. How you doing?
Doing all right. I think the crowd noise in that highlight was artificially added after, right? Those were the COVID games where nobody really got to be there to see the greatness that was Ty Jordan's early start.
There was like minor crowd. It was like staff and a few family and friends. So there were a few people in there, but not very many.
Okay. All
we
right.
put the mics right next. We put the mics right next to them.
Okay. Good news. Since we started there with the Ty Jordan highlight, Ty and Jordan, as you know, will be honored as part of the senior night ceremonies. And we were talking in the opening segment of the show just kind of about the way that Utah has handled their passing and remembering them, and the legacy, I think, that lives on with the retired number and with the moment of loudness before the fourth quarter. And obviously it's been something that you've become a part of as well, and just wanted to get your thoughts on those players and the way that Utah has handled this very, very difficult situation that wasn't so long ago.
No, in some ways it feels like it was just yesterday, and then in some ways it feels like it was forever ago. In some ways, I remember waking up that Christmas morning and getting a text from somebody. I mean, Christmas morning, I think, hadn't checked my phone or anything, and I wake up and then there's that text about Ty, and obviously the awful news about Aaron that night after one of the football games. It might have been the Weber State or one of the early football games in 21, but I just think the university's done such a good job of it. The moment of loudness is something that is just, to me, phenomenal, because it's not just about Aaron and Ty. I love the way that they've incorporated Utah fans who have lost family members or people that have been part of it for a long, long time. So I just think it's great. And you're right. Ty's mom and Aaron's mom are going to be there tomorrow night. Taka and Donna are going to be there, and they'll make the walk out on the field the walk that, Aaron and Ty probably should have been making at this point in time.
Well, a lot of guys are going to make that walk after great careers, after some great moments in Utah football uniforms. That there's going to be a bittersweet element, I imagine, for guys like Brant Keithy, who's put in so much work, for Mekhi Bernard. Junior Tafuna spoke after practice yesterday about how, this is not the year that any of them plan to have, but you still have a chance to try to finish it off right. And look, I think the fans will show up, Bill, because this is a team that the core of this team was a huge part of the best years of Power 5, now Power 4 football Utah has had. So how do you anticipate that kind of ceremony to go, not for Ty and Jordan and those families, but for the rest of these seniors who I think deserve a lot of love?
So yeah, I don't know if Keithy and Rising and those guys are walking because they've walked a couple of other times. There's a couple of guys that have walked previously. I'm not sure if they're going to walk, but I think there's 23 or 24 guys that are going to be out there. Yeah, I'm sure, Sean, it'll be a little bittersweet. But to be very fair, in the moment, yes, you'll get caught up in the emotion of playing your last game at Rice-Eccles Stadium. But the point you just made was the big one. Junior Tafuna and Mekhi Bernard, these guys have memories of playing in winning 2 Pac-12 championship games and playing in 2 Rose Bowls. There's a lot of guys that played in the mid-2000s that built that foundation that would love to have those memories. So I think, tomorrow's going to be a little bittersweet. But those guys and the careers they've had, sure, it wasn't the season that they wanted to have to finish it up, but their resumes are pretty impeccable.
Well, that's the big picture stuff. Let's talk about the micro. Let's talk about the matchup. Iowa State is the best scoring defense in the conference right now. The Utah offense has had a hard time getting going against lesser defenses. The weird thing about Iowa State is that they are really good against the pass and they are bad against the run, but somehow they're still the number one scoring defense in the conference. And you've watched plenty of Iowa State like we all have. What do you think of the matchup, especially when it's Iowa State's defense and Utah's offense on the field?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, yeah, they haven't been great against the run, but when you put 7 or 8 guys at the line of scrimmage, you become better against the run. That's what they're going to do. Isaac Wilson is going to have to throw the football, or you're going to see loaded boxes. That's just how it is. They play a funky 3-3-5 too, because they play with 3 safeties. Usually that 3-3-5, you kind of have a nickel or whatever. They play 3 safeties, and they bring, they move around. They do give up yards, Sean. They're the best scoring defense, as you mentioned. But teams move the ball kind of between the 20s on them, but they're really stingy in the red zone. They're good taking the football away, too. Pretty opportunistic football team. But, yeah, you could look at the numbers and say, yeah, they haven't been great against the run, but Utah hadn't been great throwing the football. So I would be very surprised if Matt Campbell and his defense don't stack 6 or 7 guys near that line early and say, okay, you want to try and run the ball. We understand that, but you're going to have to throw it before you're going to try to run it. So I think that's probably going to be the case because that's kind of been the case for the last month and a half.
Bill Riley, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. He's the voice of the Utes, and you can, of course, hear him tomorrow on the Utah versus Iowa State call right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. This Utah team, has defied my expectations and proven me wrong in many different ways this year. And these last couple of games, even though they've resulted in losses, I felt like, hey, if you can't get the victory against BYU, there's going to be a bunch of attrition, emotional attrition. Guys that are on the field are going to kind of like start to fade. And even though they gave up a bunch of points to Colorado, it wasn't for lack of fight. And I acknowledge this is not the conversation we thought we'd be having, like the moral victory of a team that's still fighting with this Utah team. But, I mean, it does matter when you're going up against an Iowa State team that is good, has a good record, but certainly does have flaws. It's not like there won't be opportunities for the Utes to get a win in the final home game of the season if they continue to play as hard as they've been playing. Do you credit that to the culture of the team, the players themselves, the captains? Is it the coaches that have found a way to get the most out of these guys, even in a significant losing streak?
I think it's a little bit the coaches, but Sean, because you played, you can't make guys play hard, especially in a 5 or 6 game losing streak. I think the credit goes mostly to the players that they've really come out and bust their butt. And you're right, it's so funny. I was talking to Kyle about this after the coaches show the other night. They actually played really hard against. To me, it's not an effort thing right now. It's a smart thing or a details thing, because they were in position to make a bunch of plays last week against Colorado and they didn't make them. They were right there, step for step, with Will Shepard or the Wester kid or whatever. They were there to make plays. They didn't make them. So the effort was there, but you've got to team the effort with the technique or being able to make that play. And here's the thing: Iowa State, they got a really good quarterback. Rocco Becht is really good, and they've got some playmakers on the outside. Maybe they don't have Colorado level, but maybe a level down below. They've got 2 really good wide receivers and a really good tight end too. So you're right. The effort has been there, and those kids have continued to play hard. But you can't play hard for 2 downs and then on the 3rd down give up the big play, if that makes sense. And they played really hard last week against Colorado, but there were like 3 or 4 instances where – and credit Shedeur Sanders because he's really good. But when you have an opportunity to sack a quarterback or bat a ball down or intercept a pass, you got to make it. And we'll see if they do that tomorrow.
Well, against BYU and against Colorado, the somewhat underperforming pass rush finally got home a few times in each of those games. And I feel like that's going to be a big factor again in this one because, as you already mentioned, Rocco Becht is a really good quarterback, and he's got receivers who, if you give them any sort of time, are going to find a seam, they're going to find a space, and they're going to get open. So do you anticipate that this Utah pass rush could produce, 2.5, 3 sacks like they've done the past couple of weeks?
I think they're going to sure try, and Morgan dialed up some more pressure last week. Here's the thing, though. Beck, unlike Shedeur Sanders, who's elusive, but Shedeur doesn't like to run. He just doesn't. He's got his eyes downfield. He wants to make that big play. Rocco Beck is not going to hesitate. He's run for 5 touchdowns this year. He's over 300 yards rushing this year. If they break contain or whatever it happens to be, he'll pick up 8 to 10 to 15 yards with his legs. So when they get up the field, whether it's Connor O'Toole or Logan Fano or whoever, you got to wrap this kid up because he's going to take off and run and pick up that first down. So I would anticipate as much pressure as they can put on him, but boy, you better get him when you get home.
That has been a problem in past games. I still have horrible flashbacks to that Arizona State game where a couple of times you have a QB dead to rights and then he squirts out for long third down conversions or even a fourth down conversion because you don't break down, don't gather and make the tackle. And hopefully that's something they've got figured out in these last few weeks of practice. Outside of this Utah football performance, a big game, your Kansas Jayhawks. Those of you out there who don't know, Bill, a Kansas alum, Kansas has been playing spoiler. It's 2 ranked teams in a row now with an opportunity to take out a 3rd-ranked team and make it harder for the clarity to enter this Big 12 championship picture. You think Kansas does it again?
They could. Which team shows up? That's the thing for Kansas. Jaden Daniels has looked really good, or the last couple of weeks at quarterback, the Daniels kid who was a Heisman candidate a year ago. They're going to have to score some points this week. To beat Colorado, you got to score 30. Because Colorado's going to put 30 up on you. You need to win in a shootout. It's at Arrowhead Stadium. There's not really a crowd advantage, but I think they've got a chance. They're playing with some confidence right now after beating both BYU and beating Iowa State.
All right, Iowa State, Utah. Before we get out of here, is this a game that snaps the losing streak? It feels like something's got to give here. Utah has, as we already discussed, they've played hard. Is this a game? Is this Iowa State team bad enough against the run that you can put up the necessary points to beat them and snap this losing streak?
To me, the offense has shown glimpses. You cannot beat yourself. You cannot make – I have all the confidence in the world, the defense, keeping Utah in the game. It's a matter of can this offense not beat itself with turnovers and missed third down conversions. If Isaac Wilson plays his best game of the year and that defense does what really it's done the last couple of weeks, I think Utah's got a chance tomorrow night on senior night.
Bill, looking forward to seeing you out there one more time this year at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So I'll holler at you tomorrow up in the booth. Have a great call. Thanks.
Couple of notes real quick on the way out the door. One, congratulations, Gavin Peterson, named full-time head coach, Utah women's basketball. Great dude, great opportunity. And we've got 2 games. I'm going to be on the air at 3 o'clock today with Utah basketball playing Utah Tech. And then the women in Gavin's debut are on tonight at 7. Both those right here on ESPN 700.
Oh, and I forgot to ask you, Advanced Windows. What do you have going on with Advanced Window products right now?
Well, of course, Advanced Windows sponsors this conversation I have with Sean O'Connell every week, and they've taken good care of me and my home with window treatments and more. Do the same thing for you. Locally owned and operated company in business for over 36 years. Treat people the right way, and they make an excellent, excellent product. So if your heating bills over the last couple of years have just been way too high, call Nate Orchard or any of the great folks up at Advanced Windows and have them come out and give you an estimate. Have them take a look at your windows. Have them measured. Have them give you a quote on a price because, 1, they will look fantastic in your home, but 2, they're going to save you so much money on the lifetime of your energy bills, and or if you're planning on selling your home in the next few years as well, it will up the value of that home as well. Great windows from Advanced Window Products. Again, great people. They'll take really good care of you. And again, I can't recommend them highly enough at Advanced Window Products, Sean.
801-850-9100. Biggest discounts of the year happening right now. Call them today. Get on the schedule. At least $2,500 off 10 windows or more. And occasionally they're feeling froggy, and that discount gets even better. So 801-850-9100. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, the hot lunch is coming next. We're down here at Smith's in West Jordan. 90th South, Redwood Road. We'll talk about some of the great deals. We still have tailgate passes, Smith's Hospitality tent passes, gift cards, sodas to give away. Actually, my guy Bruce is going to join us here in just a second on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. We're at Smith's Marketplace in West Jordan, 90th South, Redwood Road. Great deals going on. Bruce, kind enough from the Smith's staff here to join us and talk about some of these great deals, some of the special events going on as Black Friday approaches. Bruce, you just told me a little secret. This is the #1 Black Friday store in America.
It sure is. Out of all 2,700 Kroger stores, this is the #1 Black Friday store on 90th and Redwood Road.
Well, you don't have to wait until Black Friday. Come out right now, and we'll give you some free soda. We'll give you some Utes tailgate passes. I got Smith's gift cards. And the deals you're killing it right now on the deals. Stocking stuffers, 50 cents for Hot Wheels stocking stuffers?
Yeah, just at this location only, we're featuring 50-cent Hot Wheels today and tomorrow. That's a really smoking deal for like stocking stuffers. You can put those in your kids' stockings and not go broke. So that's kind of fun.
I'm seeing this. This is dip season, right? Everyone's making hot dips for Thanksgiving, hot dip for the Christmas parties and stuff. Philadelphia cream cheese, $1.99, regularly almost double that price. And most of our dips, as people know when they're listening, are cream cheese based. So that's perfect.
Yeah, make your cheese balls, your fruit dips. $1.99 Philadelphia cream cheese. Everybody likes the Philadelphia brand because it's just a little bit higher quality. So that's a fun deal for $1.99.
I love Smith's, and I feel silly if I didn't already know this. 4 times the fuel points on every Friday.
Yeah, you have to clip your little digital coupon on the Smith's app to get that. But that's a good way to save some money on your fuel. I get $1 off about twice a month because of that. And I don't have to spend too much because that 4 times fuel rewards, it really does help shopping on Fridays.
The digital coupon thing on the Smith's app really is phenomenal. It's like $600 of available savings every single week. You're here every day, or well, not every day, but a lot of the days. Are people like using it? Is it widespread already that people are using the digital coupons?
Oh yeah, it's a big deal. It's a good way. It's really the only way to really make a big difference. Put a big dent in your shopping budget is to clip those digital coupons, and you can save 20, 30, 40, 50%, or even a little more than 50% on a lot of those digital deals.
Well, Bruce is going to be here. I'm going to be here. We're all going to be here until 2 p.m. Come down to the Smith's Marketplace on Redwood Road and 90th South. And the reason we have free sodas to give away is because of the generosity of Bruce. He just came over and cracked off a bunch of we got Diet Coke, we got Dr. Pepper. We have the Frescas. Was that the peach one too? Oh, that's the best one. The peach citrus Fresca, and then some Sprites. And, of course, Utah gear, tailgate passes. Bruce, thank you.
Thank you. Come see us.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the college football weekend that is coming. James, this is a huge, huge weekend in college football. The timing of some of these ranked versus ranked games, and even some of these ranked versus not quite ranked games, the college football playoff picture, we're 3 weeks into the rankings on that front. It really has an opportunity to get some more clarity to really take shape with some of these matchups, including a matchup featuring 2 Big 12 teams with a number next to their name, BYU, Arizona State. That one is huge. The Kansas-Colorado one I talked about with Bill Riley just a minute ago, that one is also huge. And, of course, you've got Army, Notre Dame. Both of those teams, not just Notre Dame, both of those teams are chasing a college football playoff appearance, and it's realistic if you can win out in both cases. And then, of course, the #1 game, where big noon kickoff's going to be, where it's going to get a bunch of attention, is, of course, Indiana, still undefeated, Ohio State. That one, a battle of top 6 teams. And the winner there keeps the playoff hopes alive and well. The loser, especially if it's Indiana, is going to have to prove something to the doubters.
Yeah, we talked about this game earlier this week. You were mentioning Joey Galloway said that as long as Indiana's quarterback is healthy, they'll be fine. They should be able to get into the playoff. He even said they should rest him to make sure that he's healthy. I completely disagree.
With Florida State, right?
Yeah.
He's informed by what happened last year, where you finish undefeated, but
it's
your
not
starting quarterback gets injured, and then no one believes in you anymore.
Yeah, it's not completely invalid because of what happened with Jordan Travis going down last year and Florida State getting left out, even though they were undefeated. But Indiana is not Florida State. I feel obliged to point that out. One, they're not the brand that's Florida State, and that's unfortunately a big part of this. And number two, they don't have the schedule. They don't have the resume to be able to afford losing to probably the only good team that they're going to face this year, which is Ohio State. They've faced the next best team they faced was probably Michigan, and they have not been good this year. They're obviously way down compared to the Harbaugh years. So I don't think that Indiana can survive as a playoff team if they don't win this game, because it's also going to probably knock them out of being able to play in the Big Ten championship game. So they won't have another chance to play a ranked team if they lose this game too. So I could see Indiana dropping about as much as BYU did when BYU lost to Kansas. They dropped 8 spots. I could see a similar thing happening if Ohio State pulls off this win tomorrow for Indiana. So I think that's a huge game for Indiana, and it's a huge game for my Buckeyes too, but obviously there's other reasons why it feels like Ohio State can survive a loss like this and still get one of the at-large bids. I don't feel that way for Indiana.
You're probably right about that. There's some other sneaky games. No one's talking about Alabama on the road to take on Oklahoma because Oklahoma has been underwhelming this year. They've been a little bit disappointing this year. But one thing you have to remember about Oklahoma is that is a deeply talented roster. That is a loaded roster that, again, has underperformed. So if Oklahoma can wake up for a game against a team like Alabama, potentially they could play spoiler on Alabama's playoff conversation. So that one's really interesting as you're trying to look at like the big picture stuff and what could potentially happen for teams that have designs on an appearance in that 12-team expanded field.
Plus, you get a little Clemson-Alabama national championship game rivalry aspect with Oklahoma's head coach. I mean, look who their head coach is. A big part of Clemson's national championship teams. You know that he's always going to be up to play against Alabama.
The opposite end of the spectrum, and something that is a time-honored thing to complain about if you're a fan of Pac-12 football, Big 12 football, ACC football, any league that doesn't get the preferential treatment that the Big Ten and the SEC get. Georgia facing UMass.
I was going to say, you missed one of the marquee games of the weekend, Sean.
Yeah.
Georgia UMass.
UMass. Tennessee.
Goodness gracious.
Tennessee hosting UTEP. Clemson's got Citadel. And it's just like, what are we doing here? The fact that these teams continue to get away with these scheduling.
South Carolina, Wofford.
Well, you got to love – I mean, Wofford's chances there are pretty good. It's just like Ole Miss has to play Florida on the road, and Georgia is taking on UMass, who, by the way, is dealing with an interim coach right now and is perpetually just in the dumps and at the bottom of college football.
One of the best independent programs in the country, UMass.
The line there is Georgia 42-point favorites.
Whew. and a 55.5 over-under. So you're so yeah, that's like Georgia scoring every point. Gotcha.
The question, according to Vegas, there is: can UMass score 2 touchdowns against like the Georgia fourth stringers? Wild. How about this? Rutgers, a 1-point favorite, hosting a ranked Illinois team. So there's some things to look at in a huge college football weekend.
Virginia, sneaky upset capability against SMU, too, I would think.
Virginia doesn't have Bronco Mendenhall anymore.
No, they're not there. He's not there anymore, but there's been some games where they've played better than expected. This could be another one there. But yes, they're only 5-5. It's not.
We're going to talk about some of this stuff in like an hour with Lee Sterling because he joins us on Fridays to handicap some of these games. But BYU, Arizona State, the Sun Devils right now 3-point favorites against the number 14 ranked Cougs. And again, BYU should be ranked higher than that. Excessively punitive in the rankings over one close loss to Kansas, not getting the grace and the sort of benefit of the doubt that some of these other big brand teams are getting in those college football playoff rankings. So BYU and every other Big 12 team hoping for good things to happen. If Kansas beats Colorado and BYU beats Arizona State, then it's like BYU or bust for the Big 12 conference. Nobody else has proven consistently that they can even hope to hang with some of these other Big 10 teams and SEC teams that are going to populate that college football playoff. So, and keep an eye on Boise State. They got Wyoming, a bad Wyoming team, but that's a road game, and Laramie can be like 4 degrees this time of year, so that could affect some things. All right, hour number 2 starts next with Scott Mitchell, and we'll get rolling on some more football talk, getting you ready for a huge weekend at the University of Utah. Final home game against Iowa State, BYU, Arizona State, like we just talked about. Little jazz talk with Tony Jones and Lee Sterling, as I previously mentioned. A jam-packed hour number 2 on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, the Utah ESPN Radio Network.
4th down and a yard. Lisk under center. Drew gets a little movement up front. Now he's going to change the play. Turn it a give, Ty Jordan. Ty bounces to the outside, 30, 25, 20, up the sideline, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Ty Jordan! 33 yards and a Utah touchdown! On 4th and short, he tiptoes up the sideline and into the end zone.
That sound courtesy of the Utah Sports Radio Network. Bill Riley on the call. We're going to be playing Ty Jordan highlights for you today. He will be honored along with Aaron Lowe in the Senior Day ceremony. His mom and Aaron's mom expected to be in attendance for that game against Iowa State. Little shout out, by the way, that was Drew Lisk playing quarterback, former Jordan High beat digger Drew Lisk. Just no big deal, no big deal. Scott Mitchell, Utah quarterbacking legend, color analyst on these Utah radio broadcasts that you could, of course, hear on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. He joins me now to talk about the weekend of college football coming and, of course, this Utah versus Iowa State game. Scott, how are you?
I'm great. Today, of course, is a memorable day in our history. It's, the assassination of JFK. But small fact here I'm going to share with you, Sean. 39 years ago today, in fact, probably about right now, Springville High School won its first and only state championship. I know those are going on, and, of course, the Spanish Fork Dons had a brutal, painful loss last night. But, so this is a memorable day for me. That game I played was one of my favorite all-time games I ever played in, a memory I'll never forget, and it happened 39 years ago today.
That's awesome. Congratulations, a belated congratulations to you. I knew a lot about your resume, Scott. I didn't know that was also on your resume, although I suppose when you have a future NFL quarterback on your roster in those days of Utah high school football, I mean, come on, that's
you got a
cheat
shot,
code.
Right? I mean, you at least have a shot, right?
That's a cheat code. All right, awesome. Congratulations, 39 years ago, Springville. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think Corner Canyon, if I'm not mistaken, took home another title yesterday. Is that right?
Again, they won again. Yeah,
They're good.
They're a machine.
They're a machine.
Yeah.
All right.
Coach Carey does an amazing job out there. They really does. Think of Jackson Dart, who's starting at Ole Miss, Will Howard, who's starting at Ohio State, and then you have Isaac Wilson at the University of Utah. I mean, it's he puts out pretty darn good players.
He was a sophomore wide receivers coach on my Jordan High School football team when I was a sophomore.
You taught him everything he knows.
I taught no, he was fresh out of college then, or like.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, and just fun fact about Coach Care, for all of you who don't know this, the dude is an absolute tank in the weight room. He's a tall, skinny guy, right? He played wide receiver in college, but he had like crazy weight room numbers, like he was a linebacker or something. And all of us were just in awe of his ability to stack the plates, specifically in power clean. He was just a machine there. So shout out to Coach Care and the machine that is Corner Canyon High School that continues to produce talent for Utah, for BYU, and, of course, unfortunately for plenty of the opponents of those teams now that they're big boy football in the Power Four. Let's talk about Utah versus Iowa State. You know, we've had a few conversations in the last few days about Rocco Becht, the quarterback at Iowa State. Quality player with some upperclassmen, wide receivers, a couple of different options there. We saw this combination last week, Scott, with Colorado, where you have a good quarterback, although Shedeur is a more experienced quarterback than Becht is, and has talented receivers who help with the communication and know exactly the soft spots in his zone or the matchup that they're looking for in man. And it can be a problem, even for a really good Utah defense. What are you expecting from that matchup, the quarterback and those receivers against the Utah pass D?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a style of play that's more suited to Utah a little bit. You know, they do run the football, and they're a little bit more balanced in what they do. But when they're able to kind of have that balance, it gives them the ability to do both of those things, and they can do it. You know, so that's a powerful thing. You kind of have to force them to be uncomfortable. You have to, you know, it's always going to start with stopping the run with Utah. But I love this secondary with Utah, and I thought for the most part held up quite well against a really talented receiving corps at Colorado. And Coach Whittingham had mentioned about playing the ball in the air, a little bit better, and they've been doing a pretty decent job of it this year. You kind of get maybe a baptism of fire with really good players, and it just tends to help you out moving forward. So you want to hope that these DBs are better, because that's all they're going to hear all week is you better play the ball better in the air than you did. I remember the play to Travis Hunter, and I just remember the ball being in the air going, that ball should be picked off. I mean, it was in a part of the field where it wasn't a deep route. It wasn't really a corner where he really threw it to the sideline. It was in the middle of the field, and neither player got there, and both of them should have. And it was just a real poor angle and jump, kind of jumping to the ball. So that was something. Hopefully, you'll see a little bit better from the secondary. But I think they're certainly capable. I like the secondary for Utah. I like the talent, the athleticism. I think they've held up pretty decently. They made it hard on Shedeur Sanders, who possibly could be a top 5, maybe the top pick in the draft this year. I mean, he's a talented quarterback.
All right, we're still waiting for a clean sheet type performance from Isaac Wilson, which is fine because he's a freshman, so no one expects anything to be perfect. It was a 4-turnover game last week against Colorado, but there were also some throws in that game that you were like, aha, that's why they liked him in the first place. That's the recognition, that's the accuracy, that's the zip on the ball that allows him to be in this position in the first place. So you saw a little bit of both against the University of Colorado. Against Iowa State, they're very strange. Number 1 scoring defense in the Big 12. I've been hammering that point home. But they're 14th against the run, 15th against the run, which means Utah's strength matches up with their defensive weakness. Now, for Isaac Wilson, playing the quarterback position against a team that is weak defensively against the run, and you as a team are strong or stronger in the run than you are the pass, how many opportunities should this open up for Isaac Wilson in the passing game?
For me, it always goes back to having success on first down, right? So if you can run the ball on first down and get 4 to 6 yards, a 4-yard gain or more is winning on first down. So if you can do that, whatever way is the easiest for you, because, I hear this, well, they're 14th against the run, and I saw a lot of defenses that weren't really good that were really good against Utah, especially stopping the run. And they changed up their looks. They brought an extra guy into the box. Colorado didn't do it as much per se, and they were able to handle Utah running the football. So whatever it is, whether it's throwing the football on early downs, if they're stacking the box, we saw a glimpse of what I think I've been saying. I feel like I'm a broken record the whole season about all of a sudden started seeing a lot of routes go to tight ends. And those are some easy throws, and they're there, and they're there early because that's where Isaac's really good. Whatever the defense he's playing, Iowa, any defense, if he can get an early read, he gets those plays that speeds him up. He gets a play where he can get the ball out and see it quickly, where he has to kind of sit in the pocket and wait for things to kind of develop. Then, he has to move in the pocket. He kind of falls off a cliff. He gets really inaccurate. He gets really uncomfortable, and he's a very, very inefficient player at that point. So get him throwing the football early and to those tight ends if he's going to throw it, But again, so it all goes back to what's your best option to win on first down? Is it run or pass? And I think you can do both, and you need to do both. But it's just kind of the types of plays you run with Isaac is going to be the more important thing.
We have been and we can continue to evaluate this Utah team statistically, and we can go by the numbers and we can see what has gone wrong and what has gone right. But the fact of the matter is they're on a big losing streak. They're on the worst losing streak in 22 years for Utah football. It has been a rough stretch, and not for lack of effort. I've been impressed with the way this team continues to fight. You know, we talked with Weddle yesterday, and he was like, they didn't quit even against Colorado. The numbers don't necessarily reflect how hard the team fought. Scott, we're not in the business of moral victories in big-time college football, but can that fight, that continual effort, can it actually translate to a real victory against a team like Iowa State?
Yeah, absolutely it can, and you know, it goes back to something I said a few weeks ago. I think a lot of guys are still there and they're fighting and they want to play, but there are some guys that aren't, and you can kind of see it and what you see is drop passes, poorly run routes, false starts, inaccurate. You see just. It's not one person, it's kind of the whole group. And the biggest challenge offensively is there's not really been a leader on that team. The leader on the team has been in the hot tub, the cold tub, whatever tub is in the athletic training room. And that's where the leader is and not on the field. And no one has emerged, a true freshman quarterback, really hard for him to step in and be the leader of your team. You kind of thought maybe a Brant Keithy or one of these linemen or maybe Mekhi Bernard, someone would step forward, and you really haven't had that. And that's what I think you need is someone to hold these guys accountable to their preparation and how are you practicing with the belief that you're going to win a game. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Now these tight ends, all of a sudden they woke up, and you might see them going, okay, hey, now we're a part of things. Hopefully we'll be more a part of things. And you might get a better effort from them. You might get a little bit more consistent and even more offense than you've had. But the bottom line is the team, I think, is fighting to go and go to a bowl game. If you always have something, I mean, if there's no hope, it's like, look, we're not going to bowl game. We're nothing eligible. You just have a tendency to, you kind of try, but you really don't. And I think a lot of it is because this team knows it should have been better, and they still want to fight, and they want to see the season out. And they want to go to a bowl game and make at least a positive mark on this season.
Scott Mitchell for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show. You can hear Scott on the game tomorrow alongside Bill Riley, Stevenson, Sylvester, right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Conversation with Scott brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet. Get Chevy ready this month with better than employee pricing. Solitude season passes also with every new vehicle purchase online at LarryHMillerChevrolet.com. Scott, I imagine senior day at Utah was different for you than it is for a lot of guys because, a pro football future was a strong, strong likelihood for someone like you. Not the case for everybody. Not the case for a lot of the guys who are going to be honored and make that walk. 20-plus seniors being honored against Iowa State. Most of these guys, a lot of these guys have been part of really great years for Utah football, the 2 Pac-12 championships. They've also been through some tragedy with the passing of Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe, who are also going to be part of the ceremony, or at least their families will. Can you hearken back to the day when you made that last walk out onto what was a much different turf at Rice-Eccles Stadium?
Well, first off, we may be into the second quarter before we introduce all the seniors with as many guys as there are there. And you also have guys that walk, but then they come back. I think Brant Keithy walked 2 or 3 times, so it's like, yeah, I'm going, no, I'm not. It's like Brett Favre trying to decide if he wants to retire. It's a special thing. For me, I was injured, so I left after my junior year. What I did do, and what was really nice from the university, is I was a part of the senior banquet, and that's what they did back then, and they allowed me to go to that, and they give you a special award, and it's a nice way to kind of put closure to things, and that's really what you want to be able to do is to close out things, to celebrate what you've accomplished, what you've been through. It's a chance for the fans to say, hey, man, we really appreciate you and what's going on, because you don't get that individual recognition. Each individual goes out there. Their parents are there. They get to, meet with the coach. It really is a special thing, and super special with Ty and Aaron and that whole thing. I mean, that really was a powerful moment in Utah football history. the passing of those players and the aftermath of it. I'm telling you that celebration at the end of the third quarter just gets me every single time. I love to watch the visiting team. There's a semblance of respect and appreciation for it. It's a cool tradition that I hope continues for years and years because it's really a special thing. So yeah, that whole experience is really cool. The helmets they're going to have for these players, the hand painted one. I mean, my goodness, that's kind of bougie though, Sean. I mean, these guys are just a little bit pampered, but I'd take it if I was one of them.
Yeah, the hand-painted helmet, we haven't really talked about that on the air. Revealed earlier this week, the Maui Strong hand-painted helmet, my understanding is that they're going to be used for fundraising efforts for the rebuild of Lahaina, which, of course, burnt down tragically not so long ago. And it was interesting to see, Scott, the response when Utah football put that out there from football fans, especially Big 12 fans, like the fans in opposing Big 12 fan bases, who were just like, I don't get it. Why Hawaii with Utah? I thought it was like pretty widespread, the knowledge that, BYU, Utah were very early on the wave of like the Polynesian influence in football. But apparently there's still, especially in the middle of the country, there's still a lot of people who don't understand how strong that is. And obviously it goes back to when you were playing and even before.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring this up because I think it's a good reminder for this football program, everybody involved, with Aaron and Ty and their passing and the tragedy of all that. The ashes of disaster lead to the roses of success, right? Kind of from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, right? There's a song, and I've been thinking about this week about the space program and how they had these really tragic accidents, and they started looking internally, and they realized, we need to be better. We need a better focus to detail. We need to have a greater appreciation, and lives are on the line here with what we're doing, and it really was a catalyst for the space program to become elite and to really set it on a trajectory to do incredible things. And you think of that disaster in Maui and how, turning that disaster into success is the same thing kind of this season, looking really hard in this offseason where you are as a program and what the heck has gone on and have those honest conversations and then have a greater resolve and a greater determination to go, we're going to figure this out. We're going to turn it around. And we're going to be so much better as a football program because of this.
Scott, it's always great hearing from you. I will see you up at Rice Eccles tomorrow.
Look forward to it. Thank you, Sean.
Scott Mitchell, Utah quarterbacking a legend, color analyst on all Utah radio broadcasts, which, of course, you can hear right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Part of our Big 12 conversations at noon, brought to you by Mountain Land Supply. Visit mountainlandsupply.com, or if you're even thinking about any sort of home improvement project, don't forget about the Mountain Land locations, the physical locations. They got a brand new showroom. I defy you to go in there and not feel like, you know what, I actually do need to remodel that bathroom. MountainLandSupply.com. All right, we'll take a break for the football discussion. Tony Jones is going to join us next. Are the Utah Jazz managing to tank properly? We'll get Tony's thoughts on that. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show, coming at you live from Smith's Marketplace in West Jordan, 90th South, Redwood Road. We're in the southeast corner, the southeast entrance of the store. I have sodas to give away. I have Ute gear to give away. I still have tailgate passes, hospitality tent passes. I've got Smith's gift cards. Just come by, say hello. I'm not even going to make you do push-ups for the gift cards, all right? If Tony Jones comes by, I might make him do push-ups for the gift cards because the man is an athlete, and he's an NBA insider covering the Jazz, the Nuggets, and paying attention to the whole league over at The Athletic. Tony Jones, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I can do like 10 push-ups. I got 10 in me.
I'll only make you do 5 for a Smith's gift card because you're my friend. Are the Jazz tanking properly, Tony? Is this a well-executed try not to be too good?
I mean, they were up 20 last night and ended up losing by almost double digits. Yeah, I want to say yes because, I mean, right now, what are they, 3-11 or 3-12 right now? They're either 3-11 or 3-12. So, that gives them, I believe, the third worst record in the league right now. Nobody could have predicted that the Philadelphia 76ers would turn out to be the dumpster fire of all dumpster fires. Obviously, everybody could have predicted that, the Washington Wizards would turn out to be what it was. And the Toronto Raptors, they came up with a win last night. So, they're right there, and if you're the Jazz, you just want top 5 lottery odds. You want to be in the top 5 of this draft. I can't stress more that, this draft is Cooper Flagg, but it's also Ace Bailey. It's also Dylan Harper. It's also Igor Demine. It's also VJ Edgecombe. It's also Nolan Traore. There are a ton of very, very, very good talents in this draft. So if you are a Jazz fan and, the Jazz do not get the number 1 pick, but they are in the top 5, they are in a very, very, very good spot because there are 5, in my opinion, there are 5 potential franchise changers in this draft.
We were talking about something that I think you were tweeting about last week, and I mostly tongue-in-cheek and mostly facetiously was saying, Will Hardy is too good of a coach to suck this bad, at least to do it in good conscience. And the NBA needs to have a practice where they bring in a ringer. They bring in a guy it's kind of like the enforcer in hockey, Tony, where his whole job, he's not even a good hockey player. He would just skate around and fight when he had to. Teams there needs to be a guy who is just bona fide as an awful coach who can lead a tanking season and then set up, the high draft pick, and that's when you hire the right guy. And I was saying that, tongue-in-cheek and trying to get a laugh about it, but it's also kind of true, isn't it, that, there's something to be said for trying to establish a winning culture and trying to make sure that you have the right relationships with your players, the young core that eventually, hopefully, will be a part of a really good team, part of the turnaround. How do you coach them to lose, kind of, but also then – whenever that happens next year, the year after, also be the right guy to lead them in the rebuild?
Well, it's in that sense, it's a hard job for Will and Will Hardy in the front office in the Jazz this season because you want to obviously lose enough to be to have top 5 lottery odds, but you also want to establish good habits because you have, a bunch of teeny boppers on your roster, and you want to develop people, and you want to win just enough to keep morale up in the locker room. It's hard to lose every single night. It's difficult. It's difficult on you mentally. It's stressful on you physically because, you go through a lot physically as an NBA player to get ready to play every night. And, when you do that and mostly it's for naught, it can be really stressful and it can be really difficult. And then, you have to worry about the veterans. You have to worry about, Jordan Clarkson and John Collins and Lowry Markin and the guys who have put years and years and years into this. And, they know that, this is not – they're not Isaiah Collier. They're not Keontae George. They don't have an infinite amount of time. Like Jordan Clarkson is over 30 now. He knows that he doesn't have an infinite amount of time, and this is one of his years. So, these guys are not only basketball players. They're human beings, and obviously, from a business sense, they are entities. And this can be a tough business, but they are human beings as well. So, you have to deal with a lot of when you take this route. It's not as simple as turning on 2K and putting a bunch of people on injured reserve and intentionally losing a bunch of games. There's a bunch of other stuff that comes with it.
Tony Jones, my guest here, talking Utah Jazz and some NBA basketball. From an individual standpoint, who has surprised you most on this Jazz roster in 2024?
Yeah, that's pretty easily Kyle Filipowski at this point. I didn't know how good a pro he would be. I didn't. I do, a lot of watching college basketball and even down to the high school level. So, I watch these kids, as they kind of grow up and they mature and they go through college and I thought that Kyle Filipowski would be a pro. Like I thought he could play in the NBA. I'm not sure that I thought that he would be this good. In fact, I know I didn't think he would be this good, and I think that his ability to be, too big for power forwards and, kind of too quick for centers. He's been a lot more athletic in the NBA than I thought. He's been shooting the ball really well. I did think he'd have the inside-outside element, but I didn't know that he'd have this kind of toughness with him as well. He's kind of got some stuff with him, and he's been really, really good. I think he's been Utah's most impressive rookie. Even though I've been pretty impressed with Isaiah Collier, but he's a guy that I think that has kind of entrenched himself in the rotation and kind of made an argument for entrenching himself in the starting lineup as well. So I've been really, really impressed with him.
As you look at the approaching schedule for this Utah Jazz team, you've got, I think some games that you might call winnable, maybe. Also some games that you're going to be up against some of the best talent in the league. How do you manage the rotation in the games? Like, if it's a winnable game, let's teach this young team how to win. Or if it's a winnable game, let's rest Lowry a little bit more because we don't want to stack up too many wins. I guess it's back to that Will Hardy conversation we were just having. But if it's Tony Jones's decision, do you alter your rotation significantly based on the opposition?
Just from what you've seen, it kind of, I don't want to say it doesn't matter who you throw out there. You look at last night. Lowry was really good last night. The Jazz were rolling, and they were up 20, and and then in the second half it just kind of all fell apart. Because there are some holes, there are some warts, and there are some fundamental things about this team that even if this team were trying to win every single game, it would prevent you from doing that. And so I just I think if you're the Jazz, you want to see the young guys get as many reps as possible because not only with the wins and losses, if you're Justin Zanuck, if you're Danny Ainge, at the end of the year, you have to know exactly where you are with your young guys. You have to know what you have in Bryce Sensabaugh. You have to know what you have in Keontae George. You have to know what you have in Cody Williams, what Cody Williams needs to work on going into year 2. Same thing with Kyle Filipowski. You know, you have to know where you are with your young guys. And, you know, I think more importantly, you know, with people like Walker Kessler, you know, he's going to be eligible for a rookie extension next summer. You got to know if you want to pay him. And with Keontae George, you want to know if you're on a trajectory of wanting to pay him. So there's a lot of data, important data that you have to kind of accrue if you're the Jazz front office. So I think that, you know, the way to go is definitely just getting the young guys as many reps as possible and seeing what you have in April.
You already alluded to this surprise team in the NBA, but the 76ers seems to be a dumpster fire. Have they reached a point of no return with the franchise and Joel Embiid?
I don't know that we're there. You know, I mean, there's a lot of noise, obviously, around the team. You know, but I was in that locker room the other night, and you know, that locker room was relatively fine for a team that was 2-12. So, I mean, kind of as good as you can be for, you know, somebody who just went out on a and hit every other car on the highway, which is kind of what the comparison to what Philly's doing right now. So, you know, I think that, you know, the Sixers are still they're still confident or relatively confident that when they get, you know, everybody together, that they can make a run. They've had a major win with drafting Jared McCain. He looks like he's one of the two or three best rookies in the league right now. You know, so that's been a major win. But, you know, obviously they got to start winning some games. And, you know, I'm not so sure that the 2-12 record isn't earned. I'm not so sure that this is just, you know, chemistry and, you know, a bunch of new guys and a bunch of injuries. You know, there's some fundamental flaws there. Like Kyle Lowry doesn't look like he has much left in the gas tank. Same thing with Eric Gordon. And these are two guys that, you know, the Sixers have brought in to be major parts of their rotation. So, you know, I think that they have some things that they have to figure out there. But, you know, it starts with Joel. You know, he's got to be better. And, you know, he's got to be better on the floor. I know he had 35 and 11 the other night against Memphis. But, you know, that was 35 and 11. And they still, you know, found themselves down by almost 20 points in the second half. So, you know, we'll see what happens going forward. But it's definitely a major story right now. That a team that we thought was going to be at the top of the Eastern Conference, frankly, has the singular worst record in the league right now.
Crazy to see, although I guess we should be more used to highly thought of teams underperforming this year with what's going on with Utah football. But you don't see it as often, it feels like, at the NBA level. So fun to watch as the season progresses. And Tony, appreciate you and your expertise as always. Hopefully I see you soon.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Tony Jones of The Athletic, NBA insider. Obviously, a lot of interest and involvement with the Utah Jazz. Big thanks to him for stopping by. And we are down here live at Smith's Marketplace on Redwood Road. Bruce, kind enough to be hosting us here. We've talked about some of the great deals that are going on right now. The cheapest price of butter in town, $2.99 a pound on butter. Bruce, are you going around town and making sure that you're really the cheapest in town?
Well, I know it's cheaper than Costco and Sam's, so I'm pretty sure it is. I've checked the ads around. Kroger just made the decision to give their customers a really sweet deal on butter this Thanksgiving, $2.99 a pound, and you can get up to 5 with your digital coupon for that price. So come get your butter. Any Smith's has that deal for you.
You can come in and grab a free can of soda from us while we're broadcasting down here until 2 p.m., but also great deals on soda. And, again, this matters especially because now's the time that people are hosting these parties. There's all these gatherings happening. buy 2 12-packs, get 3 free?
Yeah, your net cost is 33 cents a can, and if you think about what you can buy for 33 cents, it's pretty hard to find anything you can buy for 33 cents. But you can get a can of Coke or a can of Dr. Pepper or Sprite or Fresca or Pepsi. So it's a heck of a deal. 33 cents a can when you buy 5 12-packs.
Awesome. And then, of course, 33 cents, just a little bit more than that, you can get some great stocking stuffers. Just at this location, you have your Hot Wheels stocking stuffers for only 50 cents.
50-cent Hot Wheels. We got about 2,000 of them left, so come get them. Great stocking stuffer that won't break your wallet.
I am going to grab some of those before I take off today, definitely. Bruce, thanks for having us out here. Thanks for hooking us up with the sodas to give away. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Sean.
It really is a great place. If you're not a Smith's Marketplace loyalist like I am, I don't live down here in West Jordan. I'm closer to downtown, so I go to the downtown location, upstairs and downstairs. Makes you feel very fancy when you're grocery shopping down there. But the great deals continue. Download the Smith's app, clip the digital coupons, and if you're in the neighborhood down here at the south end of the valley, come grab some Smith's hospitality tent passes for Utah versus Iowa State. We've got some tailgate passes as well, some Smith's gift cards, free soda. Still looks like at least 1 T-shirt to give away. So first come, first serve on all of that stuff. All right, big weekend in college football, as we've already alluded to on the show today. Lee Sterling, #1 handicapper in the business, is going to stop by for entertainment purposes only. Tell us maybe how you might want to wager on something like this if you're headed out to Wendover. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. Sean O'Connell Show coming at you live from Smith's Marketplace in West Jordan today, 90th South Redwood Road. We got giveaways galore, Smith's gift cards, free sodas, hospitality, and tailgate passes. Just swing out here, say hello. We're in the southeast doors, the southeast entrance of the Smith's Marketplace. Time to check in on the games and the potential wagers of the week. Lee Sterling, best handicapper in the business over there at Paramount Sports, gives us his thoughts on the spreads in these games. Lee, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to the weekend, and then next week, Thanksgiving. So I'm flying out with my wife to see my daughter sing the national anthem for the Chicago Bears game on Sunday. So hopefully she brings some luck. And here's a handicapping angle to this. Who knows how it's happened? But she's sang, I think it's like 7 or 8 national anthems for NBA teams, 5 for the Heat and the Jazz once, and I know Charlotte and one other team. And she sang for the Bears last year with a backup quarterback with Tyler Bagent. She has sang for the Marlins twice and a couple college teams. Every time she sang for the home team, they have won and covered. So 14-0. Okay. We'll see if it moves to 15-0 this weekend with the Bears. Hint, hint, maybe you might want to take them plus the 3.5.
I love to hear it. That's awesome.
Isn't that one of the craziest stats ever?
I know she gets that voice talent from her mom, not from you, right?
No, neither one of us. So here's something, bring the little sports back into it. So my wife and I can't sing or dance. Like when we go to weddings, my 2 girls say, don't even hit the dance floor. You guys are terrible. I mean, I can do like the little 4 box step.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's it. Are you a dancer?
Just like you are. Yeah.
Okay.
You keep it. It's like that movie Hitch. You just keep it right there. You don't color outside the lines.
Yeah, don't go outside the box. So how about this? So my wife's first cousin, my father, brother, and grandfather can all play by ear and sing. But on my wife's side, her first cousin is Robbie Benson, the actor. One-on-One, Ice Castles, voice of the Beast and Beauty and the Beast. So pretty famous actor.
That's amazing. And
yeah,
yet it skips a generation every day.
Oh,
my dad
it definitely skips a generation.
my dad also, a musician, taught himself to play everything. I can't do it. I can't even begin to do it. Anyway, all right, let's talk about these games. I'm going to start with the NFL games, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Denver, the Denver Broncos are going to be a playoff team. Who knew? 5-point favorites, it looks like, against the Raiders.
Raiders are terrible. We did see a rare 2-8 team play last night. Cleveland played hard and somehow won. The Broncos feast on weak teams. Have been favored all 4 times against bad teams. Are 4-0 straight up and against the spread, winning by 14, 16, 23, and 32 points. Huge coaching advantage here for Sean Payton against Antonio Pierce. Gardner Minshew is not the player. None of the quarterbacks will be on this roster next year. Bo Nix, what has he done? Just 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions over the last 9 games. Denver by 2 touchdowns, 27-13.
Baltimore against another, I think, at least somewhat surprising playoff team. Jim Harbaugh has it rolling. Baltimore, though, a favorite against the Chargers.
So I like teams that can play defense. Big games, defense is going to carry you. I don't love the Baltimore secondary. I love the Chargers defense, number 1 in the NFL. People don't know this, allowing just 14 points per game. I think that Pittsburgh laid out the blueprint, how to attack Baltimore. And then on top of that, everyone talks about, Justin Herbert, huge year he's having because he's winning. And he doesn't feel pressured to make as many big plays because they have a running game. They are really good in the red zone instead of like on first down at the 1, running it 4 times right up the middle. Their receivers, they're developing all their receivers. They were a weakness going into the year. They're one of their strengths right now. These guys are getting separation, running good routes, and holding on to the ball here. I'm taking the Chargers here. Give me the better defense, getting 3 points at home any day of the week. Chargers 24-20.
All right, Lee's got Baltimore on upset alert there. This one, college football game with Big 12 championship implications. Colorado, a 2-point favorite, and people keep calling Kansas the best bad team in the country. They've knocked off 2 ranked teams in a row. Colorado, a slight favorite. How does it play out?
Yeah, and Kansas didn't even play really well that last week. So that's what's crazy. Colorado's one of these teams like Miami, like Texas, that in the top 25 has not beaten a team even close to the top 25. Sometimes it's about matchups. Kansas's defense, number 6 in interceptions. Colorado, offensive line, they allow the 8th highest sack rate, while Kansas's pass rush, very underrated, top 40 here. I love Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. They're going to go top 10 in the draft, but the wrong team is favored. Kansas 35-30 straight up.
Lee, you just love chaos, and that would create more chaos.
That's
and an already
12.
chaotic Big 12.
Is there any really – I mean, BYU had a great season up until last week. Is there any great, really talented teams that look like they can, just go into the playoffs from the Big 12 that are going to do any damage? I don't see it.
Well, they're going to be a one-bid league, and then that one team is going to have a hard time. That's that's something we'll get to here in a little bit, as there's a couple more Big 12 games we're going to get your picks on. The free play, a pick'em, Seattle and Arizona?
Yep. Anyone wants to get it, just call 800-400-9741. I think there's a clear right side to this game. 800-400-9741. Give it to them for free.
All right. And obviously we keep it local. We save the best stuff for last. Arizona State, 3-point favorites against the BYU team that got hammered by the rankings committee, dropping a bunch of spots, 9 spots down the ladder after one close loss to Kansas. BYU on the road, but there's a lot of Mormons in the Valley of the Sun, so it's going to be half and half down there.
Or at least pretty close to that. This Arizona State team really has come out of nowhere. Sam Leavitt, I mean, no one knew who this kid was. 17 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. Only been sacked 13 times all year. Great escapability. He can run, but a lot of times he'll just buy time till he finds someone open. Best name and best running back combo in America. Cam Scattaboo, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he catches the ball. 31 receptions here for almost 500 yards, and another 2 touchdowns, and he averages 14.5 yards reception. I don't know. Remember the last time I've seen a running back out of the backfield be that much of a threat here. So I just think they have too many playmakers here. It's going to be tight for a while, but I think Arizona State comes out on top here, 35-28.
We're going to end up with like an Arizona State, Kansas State championship game. It's going to be wild. Or maybe Iowa State. And Iowa State is a touchdown favorite against Utah. It's senior day. It's the last home game at Rice-Eccles Stadium. It's been a disappointing season for the Utes. Can they pull something out, or does the losing streak continue?
I think they can pull something out. So Iowa State runs a 3-3-5 defense. They do it maybe when they're healthy, and they have talent better than anyone. I mean, they give you so many different pre-snap looks and reads, and it's tough. You need an experienced quarterback. But right now, they've just depleted on defense. They're playing a bunch of third and fourth stringers at linebacker and in the secondary. I think Utah, if they attack them and can get the lead, they can hang in this game. I'm going to say Iowa State escapes here, 31-28. Utah, is going to score 28 points here on Iowa State here, and I think they cover the 7.5-point spread.
All right, Lee likes Utah to cover, but not to win, which is much to the chagrin of some of our Utah listeners. And 28 points from a Utah team. You think all 20 of those are going to come from the offense, or you think that's going to be a defensive score?
One will be a special teams play somehow. I mean, this is the last home game for the seniors. This could be, this could be the coaching staff's. Who knows? Last game, we'll see what happens there. So we'll see what kind of pregame speech. If you see these kids running out of the tunnel and tripping over each other, they're so excited. This could be the last game here.
Well, you got any Black Friday specials coming? Thanksgiving next week? Yeah.
How about this? I have my college football game of the year. Goes this Saturday. We rate our games from 10 to 50 units. We've only had 2 45-unit games this year. We won both of those. Career-wise, we're 70 and 26 on our 40 to 50 unit max wagers. 50 unit college football game of the year. Anyone wants to get it, $97, or you get 2 weeks of action, 10 to 14 games a week through Monday, December 2nd. We don't call it November. We call it Dovember, the Dovember special, $197. So everything's up and available. Not selling a UFC card. You know, it starts at 1 o'clock in the morning. Did you notice that, your time?
Because it's in Macau, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I do have a selection for you. A kid named Loner Kavanaugh. Saw him 2.5 years ago. I went over to London. He fought on one of those fights. They fight in the little arena right next to the U2 arena. This kid is only 24 years old. He, in the Contender Series, had an incredible knockout in the first round. He's not really a knockout artist. He does everything correct. He's minus 350. If you're looking for a fight maybe to pair with another fight for a parlay, he's the guy you want to look at. I think he's going to be an eventual, next 2 years, top 4, top 5 fighter in the flyweight division.
I don't know if it was when we had dinner that you mentioned him or if it was on air, but you've been on this guy.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, well, I think we had dinner. So he does a little bit of everything. Tough, fun fighter to watch. He throws punches. He can do everything, and he's tough, and he's fun, and he's animated. So I think he's the third fight on the card. So most people won't be up when you flip through it in the morning. Go to the third fight on the preliminary card. Check out Loner Kavanaugh.
Only the real diehards will be watching live, but you can always catch it when you're streaming it. Lee, always great hearing from you. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
Yep. We'll talk next Wednesday. Thanks, Sean. See ya.
That's Lee Sterling, my friend from Paramount Sports, #1 handicapper in the business. Reminder before we take a break here to all of you, holiday season coming for the hat wearer, the hat enthusiast, the ball cap fashionista in your life. Wood and Grail, woodandgrail.com, stylish, high-quality, local company. They've got Ute hats. They've got BYU hats. They've got Aggie hats. They got UVU hats. Kansas State, they got a couple of licensing agreements also with other Big 12 teams. Sometimes it's important to people to have the hat that nobody else wears. Woodandgrail.com will hook up your loved one. Maybe you yourself are the hat wearer in the household. Go with the flip the script. I like the trucker hats as well, but it's a really unique style, aesthetically pleasing, and incredibly high quality and built to last. If you don't know what hat you want to pick out, if maybe you're a little indecisive or if you're like me, you just can't afford I don't really love this, I might want to return this that you're going to get from a loved one, just go and grab some gift cards, all right? Woodandgrail.com. That's wood, the letter N, grail.com. And if you want to try some on, if you want to come purchase some in person, come to the tailgate party. We've got Saturday, November 23rd. That's tomorrow for Utah, Iowa State. They're going to have the hats out there at our ESPN 700 booth. You can try them on. You can buy them. They're also going to have gift cards. And I have ultimate tailgate passes for you if you want to come visit us at Smith's. You see, it all comes together here on the Sean O'Connell Show. All right, we're going to start hour number 3 next, and we talked about this when we opened up the show. Senior Day tomorrow at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe would have been part of this senior class, and they and their families will be honored as part of the ceremony that is happening with the rest of the class. We have Ty Jordan sound for you. I'll tell you why we're playing it after we play it for you, but I want to stay as close to on clock as we can because I told people it'd be coming at 1 o'clock, and now it's going to be like 1:08 by the time I get to play it. But an interview with Bill Riley and Ty Jordan from the Coaches Show from 4 years ago. And as far as we know, it was the last time, at least here on ESPN 700, that we heard from Ty Jordan. You get to hear his voice. We'll remember him next on the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network.
Ty Jordan in the backfield, along with Devin Brumfield. Two wide receivers split wide to the right-hand side on second down at 6. Handoff, Ty Jordan, 35-40, 45-50, 45-40, and out of bounds. Ty Jordan with another big burst.
31-yard run against Oregon State, December of 2020. That sound courtesy of the Utah Sports Radio Network. Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, on the call. All right, as we have told you, Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe are going to be honored at the game as part of the Utah senior class. 20-plus players will be walking in this class. Still no word on if Brant Keithy, Cam Rising, some of the stars of this team who already have participated in one of these ceremonies, if they will do so again. I hope they do. I could understand both ways if they decided not to, but I hope they do, because I think it would do all of us good to give them an ovation at least one more time. And look, it might not be the last time for Cam Rising. Still no word on his thought process or decision with his eligibility moving there. But Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe's families will be in attendance. They have obviously become part of the fabric of Utah football. The break between the third and fourth quarter, the moment of loudness and all of that stuff, the number 22 being retired. Really impactful stuff. And we wanted to give you an interview with Ty Jordan. Junior Tafuna, after practice yesterday, got emotional when asked about the fact that these guys would not be walking and that their families would be there in their stead. And his comments, part of his comment was that, you don't know if people are going to remember them after we're gone. And I think we can stay reassured that people will remember them after they're gone. But I don't know how long it's been since we've heard the voice of either of these young men. And we have that in our archives and felt it appropriate to give you a listen, or give you a chance to listen to Ty Jordan's voice in his own words today before he gets honored again tomorrow. So this is sound from a coach's show with Bill Riley, where he interviewed Ty Jordan after a breakout performance, after really kind of a quiet start to the season. Bill asked him, Ty, did you get a sense that you would break out like you did against the Oregon State Beavers?
To be honest with you, I'm not one of those players that likes to look at the stats and things. I just like to play my game, worry about that after, you know what I mean? I knew that it was going to be a pretty good game after the first snap, Usually the first snaps are not usually great yardage plays, but, we start off with a little push. So that told me that basically we were just going to try to do our best to, ground and pound as much as we can.
You ran it between the tackles a little bit. You ran it outside a little bit. You caught the ball in the flat a little bit. You do a little bit of everything. And when I've talked to Coach Ludwig, he said that's one of the things he loves about you, your versatility. Where's that come from? I mean, back in high school, I think you played a couple of positions, didn't you? You were a little slot receiver and running back?
Yeah, so basically just growing up, I was always the shortest person, you know what I mean? So me being short, I had to separate myself some way. My coach last year, my high school coach, he was a good mentor to me, and he just basically instilled to me that you got to be versatile. You got to be a three-dimensional back, you know what I mean? Not just a back that can run or not just a back that can block, but you got to be able to run, you got to be able to block, and then you got to be able to catch out of the backfield as well. And that is what's going to put you ahead.
I think a lot of people know about two of those three things. You've got to run it because you're a running back. You've got to be able to catch it because that's where the game is now. Everybody gets the ball thrown to them. But I don't think a lot of people that are, not coaches or players or broadcasters like me think about that third factor. That's the blocking and the pass pro. There were a couple of times Saturday night, man, you picked up blitzes, and that's not something freshmen sometimes do. Is Coach McDonald really driving that in on you?
Oh yeah, it's every day. We go through blocking and blocking fits every single day. It's a big must, for us to protect the quarterback. I mean, we want the ball, of course, but it's not all up to us. We got to be unselfish. We got to protect the quarterback, and we got to let the receivers work.
Let's be fair. It's great to get a good run. It's great to get a good catch, even score a touchdown. But when you're watching that film on Sunday or Monday, and you step up with a block like you came up with on Saturday night, people notice, don't they, in that film room?
Yeah. Just it was known coming in that they were gonna blitz hard. They were gonna come through with some fire, and that we just had to pick it up. And so with picking up, my body's on the line. It's like it is what it is. As long as the quarterback gets the play off and we survive the play, then that's all that matters to me.
We're catching up with Ty Jordan, who was named Freshman Offensive Player of the Week this week in the Pac-12 Conference. Let's go back in time for a minute. You're a senior in high school in Mesquite, Texas last year, and got a lot of offers. There's a lot of places you could go. You committed to go to the University of Texas. Why ultimately did you flip it, and what felt right about Utah to you, Ty?
So my recruiting process, Utah recruited me pretty hard. Even after committing to Texas, they still stuck with me. Getting calls every single day, just like, hey, come out here. Even if you don't commit, even if you find that this school is not for you, this school is not home, just come see it, just come experience it. And my mom, before she passed, she really wanted to go. So I was like, okay, bet. We're gonna go. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna see what's up. And then once I did actually go there, I just fell in love with how they played. I fell in love with just the developmental aspect and how hard the coaches coach and how seriously they take the details, because that's what matters to me. You know what I mean? People make big plays, people make good plays all the time, but it's the details that separate the good from the great.
Well, you also had to fall in love with the facility and the city a little bit. I lived in Dallas when I was young, and I've been back a million times. Salt Lake City and Dallas, they don't look the same, do they? You can see for miles in Dallas. Here, there's a few more hills, aren't there?
Yeah, it's a lot different. Just going through the city, seeing the mountains. The mountains are beautiful. Every time I see them, it looks like a wallpaper backdrop. So it's still very, very new to me. I enjoy seeing them, but I don't think I'd be the person that hikes or anything like that.
Hey, give it some time. The guy that was here before you, Zach Moss, came from Florida, and he didn't think he was going to be that guy either. And then he turned into a hiker and an outdoors guy. So I'm just telling you, it might take it a couple years.
I might try sooner or later, but mountain lions are real. Very real.
Before I let you go, give me a quick thought on the next step in this offense and what you guys have to get it done on Friday night to beat Colorado.
It just starts with us. It starts with the quarterback. It starts with the linemen. It starts with the running backs. We just got to take initiative. We got to continue to get better at finishing in the second half and just finishing the short yardage plays and just making sure that we're playing the best that we can all four quarters.
Well, hey, keep doing what you're doing. It's a lot of fun to watch. I know Utah fans are enjoying it too. Stay healthy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I hope that put a smile on your face, put a smile on my face to hear him talking about his own performances and of course, cracking a joke or two there with Bill, especially at the end. A fear of mountain lions, nothing to be ashamed of. That's Ty Jordan. From what we believe is the last interview he had, at least here on ESPN 700, as part of a coach's show hosted by Bill Riley. He will be honored, along with Aaron Lowe, via their teammates and, of course, their family members that are going to be in attendance at the Iowa State game. Ty, as a refresher for all of you, Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year in the shortened COVID season. Second team All Pac-12. He played in all 5 of the games that Utah played. He started in 4, and he led the team in carries, in rushing yards, in rushing touchdowns, in all-purpose yards. He was just an incredible football player. It got cut too short. He was a bright light as a person for all of us who didn't get a chance to know him well. Of course, the thought is that, or one of the many thoughts is that you wish you had a better opportunity to be around him more. And the impetus for creating a tradition around jubilance and exuberance and noise is because, partially at least because, the arenas, the stadiums that he was able to play a limited season in front of were mostly empty. So there were a lot of times he never got to experience the Muss at full glory. I got to experience that insanity that is a night game at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and so that's part of the symbolism of that moment of loudness between the third and fourth quarters at all the home games now. Great job, James, pulling that sound, and I thought it gave me the feeling I wanted to feel listening to it, so I hope it did the same thing for all of our listeners.
Yeah, it was. I think I've listened to that before. I think after he passed, we might have played that on the Bill Riley show before, but it had been a while, and everything that Whit talks about when he talks about Aaron and Ty, and Ty in particular, because we played the Ty interview, I think kind of shows through in that about 5 minutes there. They talk about his smile and just his joy for life, and you kind of could feel some of that as he's talking, especially as he's joking, as you said, about not wanting to really try, being a little hesitant to try hiking because he's scared he's going to get attacked by a mountain lion. It was very good to hear that, and it's fortunate. We're fortunate to be able to have some of that sound to play back, because that's one of the things that when you lose people in your life and loved ones in your life, that's one of the things that you're like, if I could just hear them one more time, and so hopefully for our listeners, that was a good moment for them, and especially those among our listeners that had a chance to get to know him or know him really well. Hopefully that was a good moment for everyone to kind of hear his voice once again. We'll certainly play that back as the occasion comes up to do so as well.
Yeah, I have no doubt that the memory of both of those players will live on with Utah football and the Utah football community because of the traditions that have been established, the scholarship funds that have been established in their name, the retirement of the jersey number, all of that stuff. But it is good to hear the person, to hear their words, to hear their sense of humor, to all that, right? Like, the idea is a wonderful thing to preserve, but also the person is a wonderful thing to remember. So, just something to think about as we head into senior day, where they will be honored along with the departing senior class. That is, like, I looked at the roster yesterday, 28 people listed as seniors on the roster. Now, some of them will not be walking because they've walked before. Some of them will not be walking because they're going to seek medical red shirts and will be back next year. But it's a 20-plus person class.
I think
Witt
one said in the press conference he's expecting around 25. So expecting just a couple less than what's listed on the roster. And
I'm thinking, I think Lavani Demouni has an opportunity to get a medical red shirt.
Okay.
I think Aliki Vamahi has an opportunity for a medical red shirt. I think that Damian Alford, they're talking to him about potentially redshirting and returning at the University of Utah because he never really caught on this year, and he hasn't burned a traditional red shirt yet, so he wouldn't have to even seek a medical red shirt. And then beyond that, I mean, we don't know what Brant Keithy's plans are. We don't know what Cam Rising's plans are. But, yeah, that's 28 guys, and 25 is probably a good round number, and that's uncommon in college football. I mean, it's actually, it maybe makes it a little bit more of a bummer that the year has gone so poorly, because typically a roster with that many seniors, that many upperclassmen, is going to be pretty dang good. Is going to have a lot of winning success, especially if they're talented players, and these guys are. Just hasn't worked out that way for Utah. But still bowl eligible, potentially. If you can win these next two games, still a team that can chase an opportunity to play in some postseason and have an extra month of practice, which is, in my mind, the ultimate value of making a bowl game this year. You're not going to get a big fat bowl payout. You're probably not going to have a wild experience for fans to go participate in. It's not going to be this core memory like those Rose Bowls were, or the Fiesta Bowl or the Sugar Bowl years were. Or even for me, like the Vegas Bowl against BYU. You're not going to get something kind of that iconic. But from a practical standpoint, if you can win these next two games, and look, Iowa State has had a much better season than Utah's had, and UCF has had a better season than Utah's had. But these are not teams that are unbeatable. These are not games that are unwinnable, especially given the grit shown by this Utah football team. If you just take care of the ball against the Cyclones and you play some of that much maligned ball control offense that everyone wants this team to get away from, and everyone is, a vocal minority is saying, like, this is why you've been held back for so many years. You can't just try to control the clock. Well, that might be the case in years where your offense has the quarterback play to be truly balanced. That might be the case where your receiving and tight end core stay healthy and you have all those opportunities to build things out in the passing game, in the throw game. But look, when you're going up against one of the worst rushing defenses in the Big 12 Conference and your demonstrated strength, the only glimmer of hope you've had offensively has been how you run the football, go ahead and run the damn ball. Go ahead and try to possess this thing for, 40 minutes. Go ahead and do whatever you can to maximize the potential that you get a little bit more time and you increase your win percentages or the likelihood of a win. Do anything you can. It doesn't have to be pretty. And I know that we've gotten real nitpicky as a fan base. We've gotten real worried about the idea that, like, oh, yeah, no one's going to want to come here if you're playing this ball control offense. Stop. Right now it's about winning football games. If you can win against Iowa State, you can win against UCF, you can win a bowl game, now you finish above 500, you've some way salvaged what is otherwise the worst year of Kyle Whittingham's head coaching career. And they're possibilities. They feel like slim possibilities right now, if I'm being honest. It feels bleak. It feels somewhat hopeless. But at the end of the day, that's the goal. You go out and you compete hard and you find a way to win at home in the final opportunity for most of these guys to ever suit up and play football in front of a home crowd. They'll go and they'll play against UCF in a week, the day after Thanksgiving, and that'll be the end for most of these seniors that are walking. Even the guys that we came into the year being like, yep, he's definitely going to have pro opportunities. Now, because of the injury situation, that gets less likely with every injury, with every surgery you have to have as a college football player, regardless of how talented you are. It becomes less and less likely that a pro future is realistic for you. I hate saying that. It's awful to even feel those words coming out of my mouth when I'm talking about Brant Keithy and Cam Rising specifically. But the timing of the injuries, terrible for the whole pro scouting process. The repetitiveness of the injuries, terrible for the pro scouting process. The idea that, you're now facing long rehab projects, in Brant's case at least, that's what it sounded like with Kyle Whittingham. I mean, that's a guy that I think could fit as a versatile weapon of some sort on an NFL roster someday if he could prove that he could stay healthy, if he could prove to his own self that it's even worth pursuing this. I mean, the guy's going to have a hard time walking when he's 40 at this rate. So, yeah, there's just a lot of, I don't know. It's such a high-stakes proposition to walk out onto a football field for the very last time, in front of your friends and family, in front of the community that's helped support you and cared about you. For some people, it ends in high school. For a smaller number, it ends in college. And for a very, very elite number, tiny little percentage, they get to do it at the pro level. But, I mean, of the 25 guys that walk, since we decided that that was the number, of the 25 guys that walk, how many of them have a realistic pro opportunity? How many of them are going to be NFL football players, or even football players in like the UFL or the United, whatever it's called now? I mean, a handful, 5 maybe. Everyone else, they're a week away from hanging it up forever. And I'll tell you something. Even though my college football career was not what I wanted it to be, that is a hard moment of your life as an athlete. That is a rough that is a rough realization to come to. And the fact that it's kind of like rushing towards these guys. We had Mekhi Bernard on a couple days ago or yesterday, and he talked about that. He's been appreciating these moments kind of throughout the season, and good thing he has, because it comes up quick.
Yeah, and I'm kind of I've always been the kind of person, OC, that like I unfortunately did not play high level sports at all, like not even at the not even high level at high school. So I didn't have this senior day, but as far as like graduations have been that kind of thing for me. Some people are like, I don't need to walk at my graduation. That sort of thing. I was like, any chance I can get to kind of relish a great accomplishment, which I have felt like, graduating from school, college, and high school was for me. Like, I want to go out there. I want to be recognized. I want my family to come celebrate with me. And so hopefully some of these players that may be thinking that way, whether it's Cam or Brant, and whoever else might be thinking, hey, like, do I need to walk again if they've done it before? Like, I don't know, take advantage of this time for the fans to be able to have the opportunity to cheer you one more time, especially since, in the case of Cam and Brant, they're not playing, and some of these others that are injured who would have the chance to kind of be recognized on Senior Day. Hopefully they do. That's always been my thing. I'm like, yeah, let me have a little moment in the sun here when I have those chances to do so. Hopefully these players think of it the same way.
I'm going to make a case. We're going to take a break. I'm going to make a case why I really, really want Cam Rising to walk. I don't know if he's listening. I don't know if he listens at all. I don't know if he wants to walk. I don't know if he's interested in any way. I really want Cam Rising to walk. I'll tell you why next. The Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network. All right, I told you I was going to build a case here in the airing of grievances why I need Cam Rising to walk at Senior Day tomorrow. Part of it is because I don't know, James, help me point my grievance in the right direction. I think that my grievance is with the idea that we make these conclusions sometimes in sports media, sometimes as sports fans, and then when we're wrong about those conclusions, we never get to say sorry. Right? We never, we could say a thing about a player or a coach. We could decide something about them. And we could be critical. And then when it turns out maybe we weren't right, we never get this opportunity to be like, I was wrong. I'm sorry about that. That's why I want Cam Rising to walk tomorrow, because I want him to get a thank you. I want him to get another thank you, I should say. And I also want him to get an I'm sorry ovation. You know
Okay.
what I mean? I want people to be able to admit to themselves and to each other, standing in the must or sitting there at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and all of us that are going to be down there on the sideline, to be like, we were wrong for questioning the toughness because look what he did against Arizona State. And mea culpa, grievance, I'm sorry. Is that right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, in a bit of a roundabout way.
Well,
I see what you're saying.
James. You should know that.
You're well-rounded. You're a very well-rounded person. Yeah, no, I can see what you're saying there. And yeah, that's one of the things when you talk about us not having much of a chance to say, I was wrong, admit, I was wrong about that. That's one of the things that's bothered me a little bit about preseason hot take kind of bold predictions, whatever you want to call them, is that we only talk about them in the preseason, right? We only talk about them as soon as we give them, and then we don't revisit and go, this is where I was wrong. And yeah, I recognize maybe I should have seen that before. So yeah, I see what you're saying there.
You know what? I also want Andy Ludwig to walk.
Yes, let's get Andy Ludwig on the field. Yeah,
I want Andy Ludwig to walk because there were a lot of people. I do not count myself among them. I was not on this train. I will not allow you to put me on this train. But there are a lot of people who were just like, Andy Ludwig's got to go.
He's the problem.
No, he wasn't the problem. Look what happened with the offense when Andy Ludwig left. Nothing improved, nothing better. There was a lot of a situational thing. And I get it. There's, maybe it was just time. But I want him, Coach Ludwig gave you a Sugar Bowl and 2 Pac-12 championships. All right?
Yeah.
I want him to walk. And it's not his senior year, but he's technically a senior citizen according to the AARP, so you can honor him on Senior Day.
Yeah.
Right? I'm making a case for Andy Ludwig to walk. My other grievance, James, is it's a poll question I put up on Twitter as well. And I don't know. It has nothing to do with football. I'm just shoehorning it in here because that's what I do. It's my show. I can do what I want, all right?
Fair enough.
Gladiator 2 is out today. Now, the original Gladiator, starring Russell Crowe, is one of the top 5 best movies ever, probably. All right? And creating a sequel, whatever it is, 20 years later, to one of the all-time great movies, I don't know. It's a little dicey for me. So I think I'm airing my grievance with the unoriginality, the lack of originality right now in Hollywood, thinking that we want a sequel to Gladiator. Spoiler alert. The title character dies at the end of the movie, all right? You can't, bring him back. Stop it.
The true gladiator can come back and keep fighting.
Stop it. Even though I love Denzel Washington and I will watch pretty much anything he's in, I can't decide if I'm watching this one in the theater or not because I already have a bad attitude about it. But we're right down the middle right now on the Twitter poll. Gladiator 2 is out. Are you going to see it in the theater? 49.6% of people say yes. 50.4% say no.
What a polarizing question you asked.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal also playing the role of the gladiator, in the main gladiator in the movie too. The if I'm not mistaken, the Mandalorian actor.
Yeah, he's in it. I don't know if he's the main gladiator.
I thought he was from watching the previews. I could be wrong about that.
You know, the young kid who's a gladiator in this movie.
Yeah.
I've never seen that actor, or have I seen him? Is he like the Malfoy kid from the Harry Potter movies?
Let me check on that.
He's got that face that you kind of recognize, but you're like, he's never been the number one star in a movie before. I don't think. Which maybe this is the thing that launches him, but I don't know. Grievance aired with Hollywood because just stop giving us sequels. Some original movies, please.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And if you're going to give us a sequel, like, do it close to when the first one came out. Like, this is what, 24 years later, more than 20 years later. Like, if this needed to have a sequel, then do it closer to when the first Gladiator came out. That being said, I'm not near as upset about it as you are because I think I will see it in the theater.
Okay.
Because
right.
I love the
first.
Because I love the first one. And this is a great cast again. If it was with a bunch of people that if the cast was more people that I didn't really know, I might have been like, okay, first of all, this movie didn't need a sequel, and secondly, if you're going to do a sequel, like at least put together a good cast, and they've done that with Denzel Washington mainly. So I think I will see it in the theater, but I hear what you're saying about it.
Do you have any grievances you'd like to air?
Yes, I do, and I actually have some sound for it, so we'll play that right now.
Wow.
Hey, good morning, DP.
Hey.
Had Thanksgiving a couple of years ago with a girl I was dating. Her mom shows up and brings over a puzzle and says, "Hey, let's turn off this TV so we can talk and get to know each other."
So that was a caller this morning on the Dan Patrick Show.
I listened to that. And they were waiting for the punchline, and he made them wait.
Yes,
a little while for the punchline.
So he paused, thinking that they would laugh and that they would that Dan and the Danettes would have a big reaction to it, and then Dan started to talk again, and then he goes, "Well, so needless to say, that relationship ended shortly after that." Then he got the laugh he was looking for. My grievance is with people who think you can't talk and get to know each other while you've got sports on the TV. You can do both.
That's right. You absolutely can do both. And it's actually one of the great ways that you can socialize.
Yes.
Because there are very few moments in a sporting event where, like, somebody talking over the announcer or whatever is actually going to affect your viewing experience drastically.
Yeah. Right? And if that bothers you enough to – if the noise of the TV you feel like gets in the way, that's fair. Put it on mute. You can have conversation, and that if it's only one person that's interested in watching the game, like, let them have the TV on, put it on mute, and it won't bother anyone. That person can still, trust me, that person can still pay attention to the conversation that's happening and glance at the TV a few times to make sure that they're not missing much. Yes, it's possible.
If there's a grievance with this, like anyone who tells you to turn off sports on one of these sports viewing holidays of the American calendar, like turn off the TV at Super Bowl Sunday, turn off the TV, we don't want to watch sports on Thanksgiving.
Or basketball on Christmas, now football on Christmas, but those kind of things, like, just come on.
The opening weekend of college football season, let's turn the TV off and get to know each other. Wrong. Let's get to know each other while we watch TV. All right? While we stare at this box on the wall.
Yes. And see, I now thankfully my in-laws are not ones that are offended. I'm the only sports fan among my in-laws. Thankfully they're not offended when I have the TV on, but I do have the courtesy of having it on mute because I know that they're not as interested in it. So thankfully they're not offended by any of that, but it was kind of strange to me that it was a little strange to me coming into a family that's not into that sort of thing, because growing up, whenever I had Christmas or Thanksgiving at my grandparents' house, we had the TV on, and like whatever game was happening, the Thanksgiving football game or basketball on Christmas, whatever it might be, we had it on, and we were doing all the other things that you do on holidays. We just had the TV on too. So it took me a while to get used to that, and thankfully I have outstanding in-laws who just let me, who are like, okay, yeah, go ahead and watch the game, it's fine, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just leave it on mute because I know you guys don't necessarily need to hear the game you're not interested in, but you know, it's strange to me when I hear the stories of people that say, hey, turn that TV off. We can't talk with the TV on. It's like, you can do both.
You can. You can multitask. You can. All right. Keep your grievances coming in at Real OC Sports, 877-353-0700. We're here at Smith's Marketplace, for a few more minutes here on a Friday, getting you ready for a tailgating weekend. Your tailgate should start with Smith's every time. Ready-made cheese, meat, and fruit platters. They've got all the chips and snacks, including incredible deal on the sodas right now. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Plenty of ice. We've got some more gift cards to give away. We have a couple more ESPN 700 tailgate passes to give away, but you got to get down here now. Sean O'Connell Show wrapping up next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM, part of Utah's ESPN radio network.
Winding down a football Friday here on the Sean O'Connell Show. James Peterson, I think I'm going to need to finish this show out here the rest of the way. We have some technical difficulties with OC. He is at Smith's on 90th South and Redwood Road out in West Jordan, Smith's Marketplace. Head on over there. They've got great deals on gas right now. 20 cents off. 20 cents off a gallon over at that Smith's Fuel Center there, 90th South and Redwood, all day today. So head on over there. We've got Sean's going to be there for a few more minutes. If we get there while Sean's still there, we'll table up in the next couple of minutes. We've got Smith's tailgate passes. We've got our ESPN 700 VIP tailgate passes as well. So even if you're not going, even if you don't have tickets to the game tomorrow, senior night versus Iowa State, 5:30 kickoff, you can still hang out at the Smiths or our ESPN 700 VIP tailgate if you get there and get to that 90th South and Redwood Smiths out in West Jordan in the next couple of minutes while OC is still out there. So James Peterson here closing it out for you. We've got 2 tickets to the Goo Goo Dolls. Let's give a little bit that we came in with. One of Goo Goo Dolls' classic hits. And a song that you can't not smile at while you're listening to it as well. So we've got 2 tickets to the Goo Goo Dolls. That's next summer. They're going to be here next summer out at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater out in West Valley. That's formerly USANA. 2 tickets to that. A Lemon Shark Poke gift card. Lemon Shark Poke, if you have not tried it yet, outstanding. Just about a block away from our studios here. If you're not into seafood and poke bowls, they've got great hot items as well, bento boxes. Out of the hot food, I recommend the Kahlua pork sliders, divine. So go ahead and check them out. They're in the old Judge building downtown, just off of Main Street here in Salt Lake City. So 2 Goo Goo Dolls tickets and a Lemon Shark Poke gift card to whoever can answer this question first. How many Utes is Kyle Whittingham expecting to walk tomorrow on senior night? He gave a specific number on his weekly press conference on Monday. We repeated it just a little bit ago here on the Sean O'Connell Show, OC and I. What is that number? Text it to us, 877-353-0700. That's the Dish Pros text line, 877-353-0700. A reminder, we're now less than 24 hours away from our game day coverage. 1:30 pregame with Porter Larson and company tomorrow ahead of senior night versus Iowa State. 5:30 kickoff. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, who we had both of them on the show today. We really appreciate them. They will be on the call along with Stevenson Sylvester, the sideline analyst, for the 5:30 kickoff. 1:30 is when our pregame show starts, featuring Porter Larson for, once again, a chance for Utah to not only keep their bowl hopes alive. They need to win, obviously, tomorrow, and then Black Friday at UCF. They need to win both to be bowl eligible, but also a chance to play spoiler. Iowa State still with a pretty good chance to make it to Dallas to play in the Big 12 championship game, perhaps against BYU. So this is a chance for Utah to be like, no, Iowa State, no Cyclones. There will be no Cyclones in Dallas the first week of December because we're going to beat you on our senior night. That's the chance to do that. Also, a chance for you as the fans, all of our great Utah fan listeners out there, to, if you have the chance to be at the game, to give these seniors and these other upperclassmen that are deciding to walk, indicating that this will probably be their last game at Rice-Eccles Stadium, a chance for you to show your appreciation for these guys one last time. This is arguably the most successful senior class
in Utah football history. 2 Rose Bowls. This is your last chance to show your appreciation for that, and I'm with OC. I really hope that we see both Brant Keithy and Cam Rising out there in the middle of the field getting some of that recognition, and that you guys that are there at the game give them a nice appreciative ovation that they deserve for all the success that they brought to this Utah football program. The other reason to be there, Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe, 22 forever. This would have been their senior night. And because of that, Kyle Whittingham and the Utah football program, they've invited their families out so that they can honor Ty and Aaron as a couple of these seniors on senior night. We played back a coach's show interview with Bill Riley earlier today, right after his breakout performance against Oregon State, December of 2020. What we believe is certainly the last interview that he did here on ESPN 792.1 FM, but perhaps the last one he ever did. If check that out on the podcast, but this is your chance tomorrow to let their families know just how much you appreciated Ty and Aaron, and be a part of what should be a great honoring of those two once again on senior night tomorrow. Again, 1:30 pregame with Porter Larson, 5:30 kickoff right here on your home of the Utes. Up next here on ESPN 792.1 FM, Utah ESPN Radio Network, Spence Checketts and The Drive. It's only an hour today because at 3 o'clock we'll have Runnin' Utes basketball. Right after that, Utah women's basketball. New head coach Gavin Peterson making his Utah women's basketball debut. That's a 7 o'clock tip. So, without further ado, Spence Checketts and The Drive are next. One hour show for them ahead of the basketball doubleheader right here on your home of the Utes, ESPN 792.1 FM, part of the Utah ESPN Radio Network.